Hi everyone, welcome to this Keptn community meeting. We have a couple of folks already joining. Again, this meeting is recorded and will be available afterwards on YouTube. And as we are now a Keptn, not a Keptn, but a CNCF Sandbox project, so Keptn is a CNCF Sandbox project. We're also following the CNCF Code of Conduct, so basically means be nice to each other. If not, just please report to the panelists if something's going on. Yeah, welcome everyone. I want to start with a couple of announcements before I hand it over to our dev team. First announcement, we have another webinar coming up next week, on Wednesday next week. It's on how to interact with Keptn via a Slack bot, and our friends from Citrix will be joining. They are responsible for contributing the Slack bot to Keptn. It's right now a sandbox project, so if you go to the Keptn Sandbox, you can already check it out, you can already test it. But if you want to have like a introduction and a presentation, what it actually is, what you can do with it, then please join us next week on Wednesday. We have a link provided here. Sign up for the webinar. It's next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Central European Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Feel free to join. If you're new to this community meeting, or if you're a new Keptn developer, or you want to get started, take a look at our good first issues. Easiest way is to click on this Start Here button, or also take a look at goodfirstissue.dev and find Keptn. Again, I want to encourage you to join our Google group. We provide weekly updates on what's going on Keptn and provide you with links directly to your inbox. So feel free to join us also in our Google group. And of course, we have the usual ways of communication like Slack and Twitter that you might already know. And you will also find all of these links on the top of this document. So I think for announcements, we are good for today. And so I'm handing over already to Ermin to show us a little bit about, I guess, the Keptn's bridge.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. Yes, I plan to present two pull requests for the Keptn's bridge today. The first one is a change in the bar chart of the evaluation result comparison. So it's show categories on the x-axis instead of timeline. Maybe first show the issue. What was the issue here? The thing is, the bar chart was showing timeline, and if between two evaluations a long time passed, then you have a gap in there, and you if you have many evaluations in a short time range, then they kind of overlap. And the idea is that now that's changed, and actually I will show the screenshots of the pull requests. For some reason it's not, oh yeah, good. And now I take the time as a label, but we have a similar, so we have same distances between all the evaluations. These evaluations actually have a score of 0 because I don't have any configuration for this Lighthouse service, but we can see that there is the same distance between those, and if there are more, of course, they will be distributed like that. And there is a new label, or let's say I consider the label with the key build ID as a label for this evaluation chart. So if the label with the key build ID is provided on this evaluation done event, then I use that label instead of the time for displaying on the x-axis. Yeah, that's the first pull request. I don't have a running bridge with that already to show it, but I will demonstrate the next one. because that's a bigger one, I implemented an evaluation board to show the heat map with a deep link. So the idea of this was to provide a deep link to the bridge / evaluation / Keptn context, and to show only the evaluation of this specific Keptn context, or you can also provide the stage or the event ID of the evaluation event to have only that one. Why is that nice? So I will just show you here, actually on my local machine. When you have the evaluation map here, we provide now also the link, or if you know the Keptn context ID, for example, in your Jenkins pipeline, then you can provide a link to this view. And in this view, actually, it provided me already the specification for the staging stage. If I take just the Keptn context, it will retrieve all the evaluations with this context. So in this case, I have one on stage dev and one on stage staging, and showing the evaluation with the heat map. As you have seen, when I provide the specific stage that I want to see, then it will filter those evaluations to just that one stage. On top, there are some more informations like the service, the artifact that was deployed, the Keptn ID, so this context again, and of course, in this case, the staging is only shown, where you can easily check the evaluation and compare it with previous evaluations. In this case, there are 4 evaluations, but my heat map has no, I have bad data on this demo environment. So that's it basically from my side. Any questions? Then thank you very much, and I'm handing over to Sandro.
Thank you. I want to share my screen. So my issue was a very small one, a good first issue. It was about this dialog, this event payload dialog. And the request was to add a button which would allow a user to copy the payload, the JSON string, to the clipboard and just paste it instead of manually selecting it. And that's how it looks like now. That's just a simple button on there. And if you click it, you get a little message or feedback that says that it is copied, and then you only have to paste it. That's it, basically. And besides that, I did just some code cleanup.
Well, thanks. That looks awesome. I think if Rob is here, or if he's watching this afterwards, he will love that feature because he requested it. He often uses the payload for developing his own services, and that copy button just saves him a lot of time and a lot of trouble. Thank you again.
That's pretty cool. I would have one question. Does it also work for the SLO YAML file, or is it right now only for the event payloads that are in JSON?
Right now, it's just on the payload dialog here, but we could add it anywhere else. It's the logic is generic.
Yeah, I mean, we can create another issue, Jürgen, if that's a feature request, obviously, but it would make sense.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it would make sense that you can also copy the SLO file and you don't have to take a look in the Git repository because we already have the data here in the bridge. So I will go ahead and create an issue, but it looks really cool and I think it's very helpful. Thank you for that.
Okay.
All right, thanks. The next one is Andreas.
Oh, and I see, sorry for interrupting. I see that Rob just joined. So Rob, take a look at the screen that you see right now in front of you. It's pretty cool. We already have the feature that you requested. We already have it implemented thanks to Sandro.
Welcome.
Okay, cool.
Hi, thanks. Yep, just caught that. Thank you for doing that. That's great.
Cool. Okay, yeah, we can move on to Andreas.
Hi, also from my side. This week I've worked on a spec change described in this issue. More precisely, we would like to introduce a mechanism to precisely state the spec version, which, for example, a remediation file follows. And therefore, I've introduced a new field, which we name API version. And here you can precisely see that this remediation YAML now follows the spec version in 0.14. Of course, we also provide the corresponding data structures in our Go utils. And what's new here is that I've introduced a new package, which we name like the spec version. And inside this package, we can now collect data which are specific to this spec version. So we can collect the types which are specific to the spec version. And here you can see, of course, all those types which we need for the remediation. So this was my first issue, which I would like to present. And the second one was regarding the OpenShift installer. So the installer failed because with the new RBAC rules, we do not grant admin roles to the installer anymore. And therefore, we cannot use the default Nginx ingress anymore because this would require privilege modes. And what I did now is to use a new image and to map it on port 8080. And now we do not need any privileged mode anymore. So this is basically the second issue. Does anyone have any questions? Because otherwise we can move on to Christian.
Well, then let's move on. So I was working more on other things this week, I have to admit. Basically, CAP 18 has been merged, and I formulated issue that people are already working on, and some of them will be presented today. And I also just implemented a quick improvement of the script that you can see in our quick start. So the curl of get Keptn sh that's being piped into bash. I've updated it a little bit, so you can now provide the Keptn version as a parameter. So for instance, the script still works as usual if you call it like it is in the docs, but if you want to specify a different version, so for whatever reason you want the CLI in version 0.6.1, you can use it like that. And I also hope that this will help people with creating some scripts and automations, because now you can just say, hey, I want to use an older Keptn version, or I want to define the Keptn version I use in case there is an update later and my script breaks. So yeah, that should help. Just a quick heads up, this is not live yet. I still have to deploy it to our S3 bucket, but it should be live by tomorrow, I guess. So that should already work with older versions then. Any questions regarding that?
I guess, Christian, so if there are other command line arguments to the installer, then you wouldn't use that approach, right? You'd more get it and then construct your full Keptn install.
That's not the install. It's really just the CLI, actually. So
Oh, that's just the CLI. Okay.
yeah, but the idea is obviously if you want to always have the CLI in version 0.6.1, you can either go to github.com and probably, well, everything we do in that script, obviously you can do manually. There's nothing stopping you from that. It's really just a convenience feature to have the feature parity with, let's say, K3S or Istio, where you can provide the version that you want to download as a parameter. And in all honesty, the pull request was just this change in. So if Keptn version is not set, just use the default one that we provide. And if it's set, use this one. So it's really just a parameter that was already there, but not accessible from the outside. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
All right.
I think it'll be very useful. Thank you.
Now
Right.
I would have a question. Sorry. So
Yeah.
is this a step documented in our releasing steps, and that we have to change this version number?
Yeah, that's documented. Actually, we have to change it in the version JSON and in the script. So there might be potential for optimizing this right now, but it's two things we need to update, and it's documented in our release checklist. If you're wondering, our release checklist can be found on github.com Keptn in the wiki.
Right. Thanks.
All right, then I'm handing over to Florian.
All right, thank you. Today I have 4 pull requests that I want to show you. So 3 of them are actually integration tests for various use cases we want to support with Keptn. So the first one is integration test for the self-healing with Prometheus. So let's have a look at the issue. Basically what this integration test does is it follows the instructions of the tutorial that is already available. So basically it will onboard the SOTJOB application, configure it for Prometheus monitoring, then deploy a load generator that will generate a lot of traffic on the cards microservice in the production namespace. And finally, due to that problem that arises due to this heavy traffic, the remediation service should kick in, trigger a remediation action, and that should result in the replica count for the cards microservice to be increased by 1. And if you're interested, you can look at the code in this pull request. So basically, this is just a large shell script where I basically just followed the instructions from the tutorial. Afterwards, I tried to be nice and to clean up the cluster, especially delete the load generator. And yeah, so here at the beginning, we create the project, or actually we make sure that we don't have a pre-existing project, then recreate it, upload all the required files, so the JMeter health checks to make sure that the initial deployment makes its way through to production. Then we add the remediation file and deploy the service, wait until it's finished and deploy it in production. Then we configure Prometheus monitoring, generate some load, and afterwards we basically just use the Keptn API to retrieve all the relevant events for that use case. In that case, for example, the remediation triggered event or the status changed event, all the way through to the remediation finished event, and check if the relevant fields of those events are set accordingly. So hopefully that will help us during the next release, particularly to make testing a little bit easier. All right.
I would have a question to this pull request.
Yeah.
Can I directly ask it? So you're checking the number of pods, right?
Exactly.
And do you also check whether the evaluation result is again passing?
The evaluation was not part of this pull request. I think Johannes explicitly excluded it. Yeah, for the sake of keeping the integration test focused on testing the self-healing, the SLO validation can be excluded.
Okay, I see.
So this is just to see if the mechanics of the remediation service are working and the action goes through to the action executor and it does what it's intended to do.
Thanks.
All right, next one is quite similar, but the next test is for the delivery assistant or manual approval use case, as it was called earlier. So basically here we had quite a large shipyard file containing a couple of stages that contained various combinations of approval strategies. So the first stage was fully automatic. The other one was manual approval for past evaluations and automatic for warning and so on. So all possible combinations of automatic and manual. And again, here I first created a project using the Keptn CLI with this shipyard, and then I just sent yeah, exactly. Using the CLI, we sent some evaluation done events, also containing various combinations, so failed, warning, or passed evaluations. Then we checked if the approval.triggered events were sent out correctly, also using the CLI, because here we have the possibility to do so, to retrieve all the open approvals for a service, checked if all the expected events were retrieved, and then I pretty much again used the CLI to send the correlating approval.finished events, and afterwards again checked using the get event approval.triggered command if the open approvals have been closed as a consequence of sending the approval.finished events. I think we're a little bit low on time, so I'm not going too much into detail in the shell script, but of course you're invited to have a closer look at it if you're interested. But it's really similar to the previous pull request. So using a shell script, I created a project, sent the events, used the CLI to retrieve the approvals, and sent the approval finished events. All right, are there any questions about that integration test? All right, perfect. And the last one I want to show you is actually really similar to the self-healing with Prometheus use case. This is very much focused on testing the new possibility of chaining multiple actions one after another. So in essence here again, created a project, then sent a problem.open event. And here in this remediation file for this problem type that was specified in the problem open event, we have multiple actions. And here we basically just tested various scenarios. So for example, the first one was if the service was not available at all, so not onboarded yet or created yet. So in that case, we of course expect the remediation to be finished immediately and with appropriate error message. Then the next one was the service was onboarded, but the remediation file was not available yet. So that of course should also be reflected accordingly. And then from there on, we tested if the the actions have been executed. And also we tested the case if, for example, one of the action executors was not available, or if it was available and the action couldn't be executed for some other reason, for example, because an API downtime that occurred. And yeah, and finally we tested if all the actions were executed, that one after another in the correct order, and if we eventually received a remediation finished event. And of course, if you want to have a look at the shell script, you can look at the corresponding pull request for that issue. All right, and then just one very, very small addition, but that is actually very helpful, I hope. So I extended the logging capabilities of the CLI quite a bit. So now if you, especially for the install command, so now if you use the verbose flag, it will give you a lot more insights into what is going on. So the biggest change here was that we now print out all the kubectl commands that are executed and their exact output. So this one even got a little party emoji from Christian. So that, of course, was a nice feedback, and I hope it will help folks to troubleshoot Keptn in case there are some issues during the installation. Right.
Yeah, it certainly will help, but I've looked through a couple of logs so far, and I think in the future we might have to introduce some level of verbosity as well as a parameter, because I think some output is really, there's like a lot of output that's obviously as defined in a ticket, but I think there might be users that might be overwhelmed with the output. But yeah.
The goal here was to really be generous in terms of giving as much information as possible.
Exactly. So for now we have as much information as possible, and then we can trim it down.
Exactly.
But the CLI already supports the verbose mode, so changing this would be, yeah, a really, really small issue.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is Christian Heckelmann here? Yes, he's here.
Yep. Yeah, I heard your call last time on the YouTube video that I should join this time.
Yes,
And
thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. The weather is bad, so it's not so bad to stay in the office. Oops, this was my video. Let me present and share my screen. So yeah, this already merged, right? So the Keptn install command, this was a good first issue. So it wasn't so hard to exclude the OpenShift namespaces from the recommended actions. So what I did here is just, and I don't have a demo right now set up, so just checking if the prefix from the namespace is cube or OpenShift, then it should skip the recommended action to delete this. And as well, what I've removed is, because with Keptn 07 we have this tiller not anymore, right? So this is obsolete for the future. And what I'm working right now is the metadata retrieval. So here I thought it would be a little bit more easy for me, but it isn't so. And Andreas, thank you for all your help. So what I did here so far is to, let me quickly go in the code, is to add an extra endpoint for the metadata, generating for the response model, generating the API endpoint, and now I have to add a new RBAC role to actually list deployments within the Kubernetes cluster. So I have to adjust the RBAC YAML, and now I'm able to get the bridge deployment, reading the bridge, what it's called, image tag, and also getting from the Swagger YAML the Keptn version. And last but not least, what I've done, bridge version, Swagger version, and for the namespace, to get the namespace where the API service is running or Keptn is running, I added to the service YAML an extra environment variable, API pod namespace, which is getting this metadata from Kubernetes to print this out. And yeah, as you can see, I already executed it once. So getting the bridge version, Keptn version, and the running namespace of Keptn at the moment. And what needs to be done is to add these stuff as requested as well to the create support package functionality. But I don't necessarily, perhaps we need an extra discussion here, because most of the information is already in the support package, like the deployment information from the bridge and all the deployed services within the Keptn namespace. So
yeah, we can discuss this on the issue, I guess.
Yeah.
If it's already there, the idea probably was to replace it with that API call. But on the other hand, what if the API is not available? Then the support archive that's being generated uses kubectl, I think. So yeah, let's discuss it on the issue.
Okay, great. So that's basically from my side. And again, I want to thank you all for the t-shirts, right? So I want to get called. I want to get called Captain Igloo from now on.
Clap, 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 clap.
Yeah, pretty cool. And it should have on the side of your shoulders. It's because it's a very special t-shirt. Yeah, the first time we tried it. Glad you like it.
Really nice.
So we have what's next on the agenda? Where is mine?
Yeah, I would like just to mention Andi Grabner is not here today, but I was just going to mention that the Jmeter extended service, which was in Keptn contrib, has been merged into Keptn core. We don't really need to show the pull request because it's essentially a copy paste of the code from Keptn contrib to our Keptn repository. But one quick thing I would like to share is the examples repository. We had this request to add the Kubernetes recommended label app Kubernetes IO version, which we've left out so far. And Andi has done a great job and added it. There's actually a quite interesting command. I haven't seen that in Helm, but you can kind of extract the tag name of the image with that command and then just add it into your Kubernetes manifest into the Helm chart, actually. So that seems to be working nicely. And he's also, as you know, working with Dynatrace a lot. So he's missed the Dynatrace himself sometimes, and he's tried it as well in Dynatrace, and it seems to be recognized by Dynatrace as well. In this case, it's a service that he deployed in 3 different versions. So it's showing up all 3 versions. But yeah, essentially the point was that monitoring tools can use this information. And yeah, so if you're interested in a pull request, it's linked in the document as well as here, and you can take a look at it. So if you want to add that to your manifests, yeah, it should be as simple as shown in the pull request in the last commit, I think, yeah, in this one. I'll actually add that commit link in the doc. Okay. So in the document itself, the next thing would be CAP or SPEC issues. If we have anything to discuss, there's nothing been added, so I guess we can skip it today. Also looking at Andreas, yeah, he's nodding. Then we can go over to the work in progress issues. We have quite a lot of issues in the ready for review column. So if you have presented one of the issues today and they already have been merged, please move into the done column once you have time. Then the things that are in progress, this one is from Johannes. He is going to work on it once he's back. Then this one is the one that Christian has just told us about that he's still working on. And I think that one, Florian, you also just have started working today.
Yeah, it's almost done. There's just one minor thing that I want to discuss tomorrow, maybe in the
Okay, nice. Then we still have this doc issue that's also going to be done by Johannes once he's back about MongoDB issues when starting up Keptn on, was it Minikube, I think. So it's a doc issue. And then we have one issue that we have somebody has told us basically that they would like to take this one. Oh, I guess there is a question that I need to answer then. 22 minutes ago in the middle of the community meeting. He's not in a community meeting, is he? Guess not. But he will probably do that. So that's also nice. So we've assigned him. And with that, we can actually go into our backlog. Or does anyone have anything to add to the issues assigned or in progress? Is anyone still waiting for reviews? I guess, Ermin, you're waiting for reviews, so.
Yeah, I'm waiting for 2 reviews on my pull requests, and I will move them to done as soon as they are merged.
Yeah, we'll need to get them merged and quick. All right.
Who can take those pull requests? Sandro, would you like to do this?
Which one?
Pardon?
Which one?
The open ones by Ermin.
The 2 that I presented today.
I am not sure.
Yeah,
haven't they already
sure.
been reviewed? Have they already been reviewed maybe? And one of us needs to give the final approval? No.
No,
Okay.
not yet.
Okay.
I can have a look at them. Yes.
Thank you, Sandro. Yeah, cool. All right. Then let's go through the issues here. The first one is a really minor, but it's really nice. At the moment in the Dynatrace service, we have fixed operator version 0.60 because of Kubernetes restrictions of Keptn. But with Keptn 0.7 that we're working on, those restrictions are no longer necessary. So we only need to remove that restriction again, basically, and should be like, I think, 1 or 2 lines of change. Who wants to do that?
I'll do it.
Great. Then the next one I had to put back in the backlog. It's the version checker interrupts user when there is an error. Basically, I think, yeah, Sergio has described, Gabriel, sorry, has described this when he creates a project and there is some problem with the internet connection or as a firewall rule, he gets this error message shown for the version check of the Keptn CLI. And I think the idea was, I think Andreas, you commented on this quite a lot. The idea was to make this error message a little bit look less like an error and more like a warning, or to not show it at all.
Right.
Yeah. It's also probably a rather easy issue. Yeah, it's marked as a good first issue. So if anyone is up for that,
I can take this one.
Perfect.
I will comment on the issue. So.
Yeah, I can still. This is kind of a GitHub issue. We cannot assign an issue to someone unless he's really an administrator of the project or he's commented on that issue. But yeah, thank you. Then this one is from Andreas. Maybe Andreas, you can talk a little bit about it.
Sure. So with Keptn 18, we will not install Istio anymore by default. And before we also installed a so-called public gateway in our installer. And now we cannot assume that this public gateway is available after implementing CAP 18. Therefore, we have to make this gateway configurable, and I would propose to use an environment variable for this. And as I formulated it, I can take this issue.
That's awesome. One question, we should offer a way to install this public gateway, because I tried this and I was able to just apply the manifest for the public gateway. It's quite easy. So we should probably have that option available in our documentation.
Yeah. This is actually one task described in the docs, how to set up or set the gateway.
Perfect.
And in an ideal world, we can reuse public or gateway, which is coming with the demo installation of Istio.
Is there actually one coming? Because what I've looked at, you have to create one by yourself, I think. Okay.
I will double check.
Yeah, we'll check. This one by Thomas, I'd like to move it to the bottom of the backlog, because we haven't discussed this internally yet, finally. So then we have one for Captain's Bridge. Alois has donated us some nice screenshots that we can use to make the bridge look a little bit different. And so basically it's a change of the background color on the left side, and some changes in the font sizes are required. Who would like to take this one?
I will do it. So, yeah.
Okay, so Ermin. Thank you. Then with CAP 18, we also have a need to have a little bit better troubleshooting with support archives regarding ingress options. I'll actually open this issue in a new tab, because it's, there's quite a lot of info in there. So maybe this is also something that the issue that Andreas has just described with the public gateway, actually it's already there, has to do. So we should edit, or we should adapt the generate support archive command such that we check if Istio system is available, if a public gateway is available. So I guess this is now a different one. Do you know the issue number, Andreas, of your issue out of your head?
Unfortunately not.
No. Okay, I'll take a look. That was 86. So basically, we need some information in the support archive that helps us to troubleshoot on whether the installation should work or not, or what is wrong with the installation. And public gateway Istio system would be one of the things to check. Also, to list all the services with the type and the internal and external IP addresses in the Istio system namespace, or maybe we can extend that list to some other common known namespaces where we would expect Istio in. I know it's a variable you can configure, but there are some best practices, I guess. Also, if there should be an option to detect whether an ingress controller is installed. So for instance, Kubernetes should know which ingress classes are allowed. I'm not sure if that is easily possible, so we should just try it out, and if it doesn't work, we can comment it on the issue. And we should find out what IP addresses the cluster nodes that we're working on have. So either an internal and or an external IP address, if available, of the cluster, should also help for people that use node port instead of load balancer. Right, any questions regarding that issue, or any volunteers for that issue?
I'll do it.
All right, thank you. That was this one. Good, then here comes the big one of, or one of the big ones of CAP 18. It's a very long issue. I'm not going to go to read all of it, but essentially it is the changes in the CLI for Keptn install, and it has to do with removing anything related to Istio or Nginx ingress, and introducing some new command line options. Don't need to decide who does it now. I guess if you want to read through the issue carefully and ask questions afterwards, that's fine. But yeah.
Actually, I would like to do one of these big issues, either this one or the other one, removing it from the installer, but I don't care which one.
Yeah, I mean, we have here the installer issue, so that's the same issue that's linked to the CLI, but we've split it into two issues, so choose whichever you want. What would you prefer?
I would like to do the other one. So, but feel free to choose.
Which one would you like to have?
Also one of those, but I'll leave the choice up to you, which you want to do.
Then we don't have to decide it now.
All right.
All right, you just take each of them, like take one.
The
All right.
first one just assigns himself, and that's okay for me.
I'll put it into that column, although, because it's kind of assigned and committed, but it's not really assigned. But yeah. All right. The last one, or almost the last one, is also one from actually last week, I think. Johannes has added it as a comment. I formulated an issue now. So that's also the reason why I've shown the pull request from Andi Grabner with the recommended label version, because we should also introduce this Kubernetes recommended label version and other Kubernetes recommended labels to our Keptn core and control plane and etc. installation, because that's really information that's helping monitoring tools and administrators to find out what is going on in the cluster and what is there. I'm not sure if we need all recommended labels, but obviously the version we can use, the name we can use, instance, I'm not sure if we need to, because that's more something for stateful sets. Component, I think we can use too, because we can set either database or API or web UI or something. Part of, we can probably also set to just Keptn. So this issue is really just like adapting a lot of manifest files in the Keptn installer. Any volunteers? If not, we'll leave it in the backlog and we can just take it if any one of us finds the time. And I think the last one, like I said, we haven't discussed it, but I think Thomas is in the meeting and he can tell us like the idea behind this issue, and maybe we can have a quick discussion whether we should do this right now. I mean, we can't decide it probably now, but let's just have a discussion anyway. Thomas?
Yes. Yes. Currently, we are using multiple host names for exposing Keptn, the Keptn API and the bridge to the outside world. And we are often using xip.io and nip.io as DNS provider to generate host names for them. But to be honest, these two services are not really stable anytime. And we talked a bit about it, and I think it would be a good idea to make the API and the bridge accessible via some host name or the IP address itself and /API or /bridge. This would reduce the complexity of this topic, in my opinion. And it would be easier to configure a nice domain name for Keptn currently. I think we should make this. We should also let the old paths there until I think Keptn 0.8 or 0.9, and afterwards deprecated. Yes, and currently I don't think that we have two possibilities to achieve this. We could rewrite everything which ends with /API and send it to the current endpoints, or we duplicate the endpoints and do it this way.
So
yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I also see lots of benefits. For example, we only need one load balancer in the future, and this can save lots of money for customers. The second one is we exactly need one SSL certificate, and it will probably be easier to use such a certificate. Yeah. So
we don't even need an ingress for that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I see the benefits of it. It was also back in my head when I did write Cap 18 to do that. It was more of a, let's maybe postpone this after the 0.7 release, because it has some implications. Like you already said, you would have to leave the old URL available as well as the new endpoint available, and that creates some complications in what we do. Because right now this whole thing is managed, I can show you, via an Nginx. I think I need to open it in the installer manifests. There, I think.
Keptn.
No, yeah, I was in Keptn. There we go, the API gateway Nginx. It's right now managed in an Nginx image itself with a configuration. That's the one that Andreas also has updated, that has shown us to the unprivileged Nginx version. And right now we have like the location / is being passed to API service. And I agree, we can just write /API here and pass /API to the API service, and then pass / or /bridge to the bridge. But there's a lot more to this. So we'd have to rewrite all the other endpoints. And then again, we need to provide the old endpoints as well. So we have to duplicate a lot of code for this if we want to provide the old endpoints. And so I'm not sure. If we want to do it, I think we should break the functionality. So there's no deprecation, we just break it. We have a 0 in our version at the beginning. We can break things. But then again, I'm not sure if that's really what we want right now. So I'm open for discussion, basically.
Basically, if we would like to do it sometime, it's better to break it now and earlier than later. And furthermore, we would have a volunteer here in this meeting who can start with this issue. Of course, everybody of us can help here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm open for discussion. We can do it, and like you said, better break it now than in 2 months. So yeah.
Christian, for you, you are a Keptn user. What do you think?
So for me, it's beneficial when we don't have these extra subdomains, because then you can use, for instance, we have wildcard SSL certificates, right? So we can add for the load balancer or for the ingress or whatever it later will be, we can reuse our certificates and have a valid certificate in front of our bridge and in front of the API. So yeah, I like this idea. And to be honest, I'm with you. Better break it now than later, because after I think 0.7 there will be a lot of when it's in 0.8 it's better now than later, right?
Okay, so is anyone against it? Basically, let's put it like this. Because if not, we can leave it in there. And is anyone wanting to help with that issue?
Yes, I would do it.
All right, then let me assign it to you. And thanks for bringing it up, and thank you everyone for the discussion.
So Grabner Andi will love this, I'm pretty sure.
After 3 hours of traffic configuration last night.
Yes.
Yeah.
He gave me that idea.
All right, I think we're done with our backlog and our planning. Thank you everybody for your participation. And well, one quick announcement from my side. I will be on paternity leave for 2 months, so you will not see me for 2 months. But next week, Jürgen and Johannes will go through most of the meeting again, and obviously all the usual suspects that are in this meeting. I hope to see you again. Well, in the YouTube recording maybe, and obviously when I'm back in 2 months, I hope to see all of you again and even more people. And yeah, so thanks for joining this meeting and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
See you.
See you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.